there's 3 tiers. So number 1, you need to find the charts. Like, who has these charts? Who are these practices out there? And the thing I find interesting, Dr. Blake, dentistry is very much the industry of have and have nots, where you're like, dude, this is amazing. Number 2, what do they want? What are the 3 non-negotiables? What does this dentist want? What would make you happy is a really good question, because now you have their perfect scenario. And that leads into number 3, which is now you get to build the deal. The first 2, I think anybody could do, right? Anybody can get on their phone and go find the deals. Anybody can call up and say, hey, what would make you happy? I would love to figure out if there's a merger opportunity here. But how do you build the deal now? That's the complicated part, I think.
Yeah, that's experience. Like I said, doing it over and over again, and maybe it goes through and maybe it doesn't.
Welcome back to another episode of My Dental Playbook. I'm your co-host, Gary Bird. Along with my friend, Dr. Blake Hamblin, we're going to be diving deep into his office and how he's doubled his collections in just under 12 months. We're also going to be talking about his journey to a $10 million practice and what he needs to do to get there. You're going to see behind the curtain, and Dr. Blake is amazing at sharing the hard details that you need to know so you can do the same too. If you want to grow, this is the show for you. Stay tuned. All right, we are live, and today we're going to be talking about mergers and buying charts, how to do this properly. Dr. Blake has a 3-step process that he's used successfully, and he's in the middle of working on one right now. And so we're going to dive deep into that. And if you want, down below, we have a link to a mastermind. If you're thinking about buying charts, recommend that you hop into our mastermind. There's no contract. You can just come in, ask the questions, get the information, bounce if you want. But we would love to talk to you about that. And also, we have 5 LOIs that Dr. Blake has already sent out and that are working. And so if you want to see those are down below as well. And we would love to give those to you. Also, make sure that you subscribe. Most of our listeners, I think it's like 85% of our listeners are not subscribed. So just hit that subscribe button. You'll get great content like this. And hopefully this is helpful to you. And then also make sure that you check out our show sponsor, Cherry. Cherry's amazing. Dr. Blake has literally more than 100% doubled his collections over the last year because of Cherry. And we have a ton of training on that, and we have special pricing. And so they make it possible for us to make all this content for you. They're amazing. And if you're not using them and using them with every patient, then you're not doing it right. So please go check them out. And Dr. Blake, before we dive into this, you just got back from a really cool trip. I don't know what you can share about that trip, but that was a pretty cool story you were sharing.
What happens in Fight Club stays in Fight Club.
Okay.
It was great. I got to spend some time with some awesome dentists that some people listening may even know their names, and it was just a great time of friends and fellowship. And really, I came back with a list of things that I was like overwhelmed with of action items that I've got to add to my practice. And so the definition of mastermind, right? Like going on a ski trip and then just being stuck on a lift with 4 other just amazing operators. It was awesome.
That's so cool. You got to ride in a private jet, which is really cool. That's awesome. That's always big time. So awesome. So I'm excited about today's because this was a very hot topic, both online and even with the group that you were with, is how do you do these mergers and acquisitions? And this has been something that I think a lot of people know about, but they don't take advantage of. And we were just going over the numbers. And it's almost a no-brainer when you go to buy charts because your practice is just going to grow. And I think a lot of times people get hung up on like, well, how many are going to stay and how many and all those kind of things. But it's so cheap. It's way cheaper than any marketing that you're going to do. And it's fast.
And that's how I look at it, Gary, is like at that point, it's not, do I buy a practice? It's turned into a marketing expense. So is it cheaper for me to pay SMC to get patients, or is it cheaper for me to pay this person to get patients?
I don't think there's anything that's going to be cheaper than this besides patient referrals, but that's just slow, right?
Right. And these patients already come with goodwill. Like these patients trust the person. If you can merge them in to even just onboard these patients, they're a gold mine.
That's amazing. And they're out there. Like the opportunities are out there. So there's 3 tiers. So let's go over the 3 tiers and then we'll dive into each one of those to help people be able to navigate this. So number 1, you need to find the charts, like who has these charts, who are these practices out there. And the thing I find interesting, Dr. Blake, dentistry is very much the industry of have and have nots, where you're like, dude, this is amazing. We're growing. There's all these opportunities, but there's someone down the street with 10 new patients a month. And they're like, we can't grow. Like literally right down the street. And it's just crazy. You're in the same market and they're just two different outlooks. So those people are out there. That's number one. Number two, what do they want? What are the three non-negotiables? What does this dentist want? They may want to just get out of their practice as quick as possible. They may want to practice without the headache for a while. They may want to merge and just work at your practice for a little bit. So figuring those things out and then building the actual deal. You said something interesting. You said, once I know the three negotiables, then, or non-negotiables, I should say, the deal, you can build any deal to make it work for both sides, which I love that abundance mindset. Okay. So let's start with finding the charts. Like, how do you go find these dentists?
Yeah, great question. So a pastor I had once said, what you feed grows. And I truly believe that. And so where you can find me often on a Friday night is in the hot tub, looking on Facebook for practices that are trying to sell themselves, or emailing with a broker about some practice that I know nothing about on if it might be a good fit. And I've been told no 1,000 times, but I've taken a lot of swings. And it's just once I feel like at this point now there's 2 to 4 brokers in our market that know they can come to me with any deal, and I'll have a deal ready to go in the next week.
So they love you. There's not many people like you.
That can be good or bad.
Yeah, it can definitely be good or bad. That is for sure. So, okay. So it's literally just getting online and just finding dentists that are you going like to Google, or where are you going exactly?
Yeah. So it depends on the time. Different ideas pop in my head at different instances, but like I said, I've got a couple of brokers that will reach out to me if there's an opportunity they know that would fit in my ecosystem. And then a lot of it is just, being on a Facebook group, like dental matchmakers on Facebook, and different things that pop up. Sometimes I'll search the Greater Houston Dental Society page to see if there's anybody trying to get out of dentistry or what. Literally, I just feel like God drops these in my lap, and then it's my job to discern, is it a good opportunity or not? But I'm actively seeking them out. They're not just like, make sense.
Yeah, you have to go out and pound the pavement, basically. So take time on your Friday night. Don't hang out with your friends or family. Go on Facebook and go look these up. No, I'm just playing. Dr. Blake's always working. He's always like, my kids go to bed in 15 minutes. Can we talk then? So you're a great husband, great dad. So, okay. All right. So let's look at the second one. So what do they want? So let's say you go online, you find these practices, and there's 2 or 3 that want to sell that would make sense for you to buy their charts. They're close enough to, I'm assuming they have to be pretty close to your practice,
right? If
you're going to roll them in. And then you reach out to the doctor, and you said you want to figure out what their 3 non-negotiables are. What do you mean by that? And then how do you have that conversation?
These next 2 topics are probably my most favorite thing outside of dentistry to do. It empowers me a lot to be able to ask this person, what do you want? Like, what's a win for you? And just let them tell me and be like, sweet, and be stoked about it. Like be super. It's like when a team member comes in and wants a raise, like you can be like, oh man, this person, blah, blah, blah. Or you can be like, sweet, you want to add more value. Let's do it. And so I get really excited to be like, what's a win for you? If this all shook out the way you wanted, what would that look like? And then the next segment is building it. But over the years, after, like I said, I've had failure after failure after failure of mergers, right? And
by failure, you mean you didn't lose any money. It just didn't close. Yeah.
Just didn't close. But the art of the deal has become so fun to me. Like sitting there thinking, well, what if we did it that way? Or what if we did it this way? Or if I did a owner finance note on this, like, and you can play with, like, then you start thinking about taxes. And so, no, but I believe that a good deal both parties have to win. And so knowing the answers to the test of what is a good deal for them, because what might be a good deal for you, if you were them, may be different than what they would want. And so getting clarity on that helps you reduce the amount of time that you're going to have to spend building that deal. Because you could go to them and give them one option and they're like, this is so far off. This is left field, right?
Yeah. And you never know what people's motivations are, right? They might have a sick spouse. They might just be tired. Sometimes people just get tired. They're great dentists or they're great business owners, but they're just tired. They don't want to do it anymore. And they don't even want to deal with the selling process because that's a nightmare in itself. And so you got to figure out what their motives are. So I love that. Like, what would make you happy? is a really good question, because now you have their perfect scenario. And that leads into number 3, which is now you get to build the deal. And I think the first 2, I think anybody could do, right? Anybody can get on their phone and go find the deals. Anybody can call up and say, hey, what would make you happy? I would love to figure out if there's a merger opportunity here. But how do you build the deal now? That's the complicated part, I think.
Yeah. And that's experience. That's like I said, doing it over and over again. And maybe it goes through and maybe it doesn't. But I now can sit there and full transparency, ChatGPT builds the deal. I just ask really good questions. And so I'll be like, okay, if I want to keep profitability at this, what can I pay them as a percentage, this, that, and the other? And then I'll spit something out and then I'll read it and be like, oh, that brought up okay. So what if we did this, and we just start building and we back into, it's just like if you want to become $1 million practice, how do you do $83,000 a month? And how do you do whatever that takes per day? And you back into the goal. That's a way better way for me to build a deal than to just throw something at the wall and see if it sticks.
Yeah, that makes sense. So ChatGPT is a big one. And then what would be some of the traps in deals that you need to be careful, that probably a lot of at first you got really excited about and now just to completely avoid?
Yeah, so double paying for the patient. So you might be paying the provider an associate salary or an associate percentage, but then also paying them for the referral fee, if that makes sense. So if you brought the provider over, and so having clarity on what your percentage actually turns into, because if you're paying them 30% of the production, but then you're paying them 10% of the referral fee or whatever the deal might look like, knowing what the actual hit to your bottom line will be is super, super important. So that you don't end up in a position where you're like, oh my gosh, I just made the worst deal of my life.
Yeah. And I know what everybody on Facebook, what everybody always asks about is all right, how much should I pay per patient? And then how many of those should I target to keep? Is that as big of a deal in the big scheme of things?
No. So in fact, I had a conversation today, and I would prefer to pay per patient on a merger. To me, it just feels easier. But this person would prefer a percentage of my collections, which he believes is a better indicator of patients coming over. And I said, hey, I'm totally cool with that. I said, this is just a math equation. I said, I just need to figure out what that number that I have to hit is to be able to pay you a percentage of what I do. Because yes, the value is coming from you, but I can't pay you for the value that I create. I can pay you for the value you've created, but you don't get to win off my value, right? And so I wouldn't have been able to have that conversation 2 years ago. I wouldn't have understood that, but I was able to in the moment spit that out, and I think he respected me for it.
Yeah, that's really good. That totally makes sense. Is there anything else that people need to watch out for as they're working through this and they're identifying practices and too good to be true type stuff?
Yeah. So you're often going to be talking to an older doctor that has historical sales that maybe have dwindled. And it's very common for them to believe that there's more potential in their practice than what they've actually produced in the past. And though there may be, I believe that when we merge these patients into our practice, our patient value now kicks in. So maybe they have an annual patient value of $700, but our annual patient value is $1,400. Well, now that patient is literally worth double in my practice, right? But at the same time, like I just mentioned, you don't want to pay for the value that you're creating. You want to pay for the value that they've already created, and they have to have reasonable expectations. The reason a lot of these deals haven't closed, some of these deals haven't closed for me, is because they're wildly unrealistic in what they want, right? They have a practice that does $1 million, but they want 1.5 million to close on it. That's not going to happen, right? And so I think just realizing that not every deal is a good deal, and not every opportunity is going to be someone who's going to be able to reasonably work towards a deal, because that's what it is. It's two sides meeting in the middle. And I think for a good deal to happen, both sides have to feel like they've lost a little bit.
So there has to be compromise. There's something that you're going to give up and something that they're going to give up.
Right.
Got it. Okay. Well, this is really helpful. And then the LOIs, how is that going to help the dentist down below, those that you've built out?
Yeah, my hope is that it inspires curiosity. I think you'll find that each deal is uniquely different. It's not every deal gets the same LOI. It's quite literally like if you read a deal, you'll be able to understand what those non-negotiables were that I was given because the deal is surrounded around that. So I hope it just gives people an idea of different ways that you might be able to structure a similar deal based off of what your seller might be expecting.
Okay. That makes sense. Awesome. Well, this is a really good episode. If you guys want those free resources, and again, the mastermind is there if you want it. $299. You can hop in, hop out, and we're happy to dive into your results and also figure out, Dr. Blake, you and I have had a ton of talks of, wait. It would actually be cheaper to market than to buy this, or it would actually be way cheaper to do this than to market. So make sure that you're framing that into your thought process out there. And again, we're happy to help you with that. We have a ton of data on it and can point you in the right direction.
I have a ton of fun doing that. So I would selfishly love for you to do that. And then Gary is just a wealth of knowledge from a marketing standpoint to be able to help you understand, do I roll this brand in or do I keep it as a separate location? And he can help you make sense of things that you just don't have the knowledge or the information on. So if you're walking through this, we'd love to help you.
Awesome. All right, everybody.
Let's go. See ya.